Hello, everyone. Happy Sunday. Welcome back to the Upset Podcast. And as you can see behind me, happy Mother's Day. Of course, I'm not alone. I have the best crew in all the land with
The
me
best.
today. The best in all the land.
Happy Mother's Day to all of our
Happy Mother's
beautiful
Day.
Happy
mothers,
Mother's Day.
part-time and full-time, volunteers.
Right. Every category we could think of, right? So, how's everybody?
Doing great.
Feeling pretty good. Feeling really good on this Sunday morning.
You look great.
Oh, man.
The
I
sky is nice behind you there.
feel like I'm in touch with my future life.
I'm glad there's no rain. Oh my
Yes,
goodness.
yes.
Oh,
All right.
really? Okay.
In
We'll
your
see
pick.
about that.
In your pick.
So, as always, there's always so much going on in our world. We never have to worry about things to talk about because, just when we think things are dying down, there's something else that pops up.
Mm.
And what have you guys been seeing this week that has caught your attention, particularly in the news?
Well, I mean, dealing with news on a relatively regular basis, one of the things that I had been paying careful attention to is the Supreme Court leaking a decision that they've made as we celebrate Mother's Day about something that impacts Mother's Day, and that is the abortion laws that are a part of American life. I mean, I must admit to being a bit conflicted about this issue of abortion, but I always feel some kind of way when the Supreme Court speaks and when they interject into these matters. And I'm wondering what it means for us and how we'll respond to it. The religious community is split right down the middle when it comes to this abortion issue. It's one of the most divisive issues of our time.
Yeah. Yeah. It hits me pretty deep because even though I may feel that abortion is wrong, my views should not affect other people and what they do to their bodies. I mean, oftentimes there's some linkage to trauma of why, people make certain decisions. And I even know just throughout my ministry, women have come to me and spoken to me privately, and they cry and they're so sorrowful if they made those decisions in times past, and it haunts them. But at that time, they were so broken, something was going on where they felt that, it was the only choice, and shame, sometimes the church, we make mistakes. We make people feel so shamed, if they make mistakes. And so they're trying to hide it. And so I think people should have the right to make their own choices with their bodies. That's between them and God. But I think the church has a responsibility to teach, and to love people. So I've just been, I feel that God has given me a ministry for women that are broken, and to do something, to show support to women and hook them up with like a financial resource, in the event that they're going through some type of painful pregnancy, to see if that will help them, not make decisions for them, but to help them to think it through, and maybe, there's hope and they could have other avenues. Because even this potential decision, they keep saying it's not a decision yet, but we got an idea of how it's going to happen. It's even against children that's been raped, by parents or family members, and so it's trauma on top of trauma, and so it's just very disturbing. I just wish that we would give people the religious freedom from whence people said they came to this country, right? For religious freedom. And now we're taking away the freedoms that people left, Europe to come for. And they do it in the name of Christianity.
Yeah. And for some people, even if they don't really associate with anything religious, they feel like it's kind of a moral thing. Like, they may not be religious, but they feel like, life and death shouldn't be left up to man's decisions. But I kind of have to say I had wrestled with this topic for a while, kind of as a young Christian, and I kind of just resolved to that matter of choice. I felt like if God gives us a choice to make decisions and we deal with those consequences, who are we to take that choice away from others? But that's just always been my perspective. But it's Tally, you're muted. That might be a good.
That must be it. Must not be that important. It ain't that important.
Oh, bless her heart. It has begun already.
It's our day. It's our Mother's Day.
It's Mother's Day.
This is not our topic for today, by the way, guys. Like we're
But
not.
when we say that we believe it's choice and it's all this choice and all that stuff, if somebody was standing on a building and getting ready to jump off to commit suicide, we wouldn't say, "Well, it's their choice. Let them go ahead and jump." And I'm wondering, is there more to it than that? I sense that it is deeper than whether or not it's just a matter of choice. I think it's a deeper discussion, because if somebody wanted to commit suicide, we don't say, "Oh, it's your choice." When people decide to use drugs, we don't say, "Oh, well, it's your choice," But
Tally, everything is a choice.
Ultimately, is their choice.
Right.
I mean,
everything is a choice.
What I'm saying is, ultimately everything is a choice, but our response to it allows us to decide whether or not we accept it as a viable choice. If somebody's trying to commit suicide, we stop them.
Well, the issue is what the fetus is determined to be. If some determine it's a part of life, it's not a part of life yet. I think that's where that issue is. But anytime you use laws to enforce things, then it becomes when it's a moral issue. Let me be very clear.
Well, it is a moral issue.
When you use laws to govern people morally, that's when that's an issue.
Yeah, my question is, do people really care about life, or is it just about control? Because they talk about life when it only concerns
Go ahead, GP.
The womb and them being born. But do they really care about their whole life? Like, are they really concerned about the fact that some people might not have the means or ability, emotionally, bandwidth to raise a child when they were raped? Like, they're not thinking about the whole picture. They're just concerned about
it's not affecting them now.
I agree with GP on that, and that is, but you have to be careful when you take an ethical issue and play in somebody else's backyard about it, and that is, that is what they are thinking, whoever the they is. What I'm asking is the ethical question as to how should we respond about this issue of abortion? What do we perceive that God wants when he looks at this issue of abortion? And for example, I'm of the persuasion, as GP just made mention of, that when it comes to protecting and regarding life, you protect and regard the life that is nearest to you. The broken man on the road that the Samaritan meets. And so if my daughter is raped by someone and she is going to be injured by carrying that rapist child, then I have to protect the life that's nearest to me, which is my daughter. But I'm just putting it out there as a point of discussion. We might need to discuss it.
I was gonna say, it sounds like this is gonna be one of those topics that has to come back on our roster.
And let me just say, I do believe it's more of a political stance, because they're trying to to help the religious right wing that really wants to get rid of abortions, because all of those little precious children that were at the border and they snatched from their mothers, who are emotionally devastated forever. That's what statistics show. They had no care about the children. And so when, they say, we really care about, children, so many children are dying, that's, if it's, something that they really want, that's how they use their stance, right, to support how they feel. But, when it comes to other children, that stance is not received. So, we have to see how, what their motives really are.
Coming to a future upset near you, the abortion issue.
Tune in,
folks.
Yes,
don't miss that
it's
one.
Coming up, because there's a lot to talk about. Particularly that question you asked in terms of what can the church or what can Christians do?
Yeah.
Because it's not just about, like you were saying the choice. It's also about what can we do to maybe help someone not make that decision of
education and support.
Support. Yeah. So anyway, we're not going to get into that, but that is a great topic, and I'm sure we will be revisiting it.
I don't even know how that came up.
Mothers. It came up from mothers.
News. Just what's coming up.
Marlene brought that topic up.
I did. I did in the green room.
That's when you know you're good, right there.
No, don't fall for it, Marlene. Don't fall.
I won't.
All right.
I don't know why I love him out there. I don't know why.
But yes, it is Mother's Day, and we, as we said before, we do want to wish all of our mothers a happy Mother's Day. And yeah, we want to take
Indeed.
this as an opportunity to discuss motherhood, all aspects of it. And we like to talk about origins on the upset, things that we just take for granted. Oh, Mother's Day, of course, this is about celebrating mothers. But when did this all start? I mean, I was kind of curious myself, and I found something that I didn't know. Maybe you guys knew it out there, but that it really started in the early 1900s by a woman named Anna Jarvis. And it was in 1907 in honor of her mother, Anne Jarvis. And Anne was a nurse who treated wounded soldiers on both sides during the American Civil War. And after the conflict was over, she campaigned for a day to be able to celebrate peace above all else. After treating all of these wounded people, these wounded men, she was just felt overwhelmed and felt like women needed a day of peace. And so she asked that for the holiday called Mother's Day for Peace. And so really it was a rallying call for mothers across America who didn't want to see their husbands or their sons killed in military conflicts to kind of come together and kind of take that stance. And she campaigned for it, but it didn't actually happen until after her death, when her daughter kind of took up the mantle. And initially they wanted it to be observed on the 2nd of June, but that didn't work. And so eventually, as we know, it was passed in Congress. And ever since then, it kind of migrated into not just about peace and war, but just simply celebrating mothers. And that's kind of what we've known it to be today. An opportunity to reflect on mothers, to show affection and love and appreciation to our mothers, as some of us do. But we also recognize that Mother's Day is not always the flowers and the beautiful things that we see behind me. For some, it's a sad day. For some, it's a triggering day. For some, it brings up a lot of emotions that sometimes we try to suppress throughout the year. So we want to talk about all of those things today. And of course, as you probably could tell by now, we're not live, but we do want to invite you all in the comments to share as well as we talk about these different things.
We're not live?
I kind of wanted to get over that, but yes, because we are celebrating
It's
Mother's
the
Day.
ghost of Tally.
But so let's kick this off. There's also, when we're talking about like Halloween, and I think even recently Easter, we were talking about how every holiday we have is like an opportunity for money to be spent. And of course, we love retailers love these holidays because that's when their pockets are laced. But for Mother's Day, it's estimated that we will spend over $28.1 billion just on that one day.
Good.
This is America?
This is America. This is
Whoa.
America.
So where's all that inflation people are complaining about?
But when it comes to mama, people feel like they got to pull out all the stops. Like we can't be cheap with mom, right? What do you guys think the top three thing? I think I got this, but what do you think maybe the top three things that $28 billion is comprised of?
I think we're, catering to them, getting them a spa day, or treating them to, I don't know, purses, clothes, whatever they like, we're giving them.
Taking them out to dinner.
Right.
There you go.
Very nice restaurants.
Greeting cards.
Yes. Yes. You
Flowers.
Flowers. Yes.
Yep.
My mom didn't want none but flowers.
Yeah. 72% are on greeting cards. Well, 68% spending on flowers. 49%.
What about hiring in nannies?
That's actually on there,
Don't need no nanny. We got
GP.
daddy.
You got daddy.
That's right. You got GP right there.
Yeah, special outings, gift cards, of course, clothing and accessories, jewelry, and all that great stuff. So, we're definitely taking the time to celebrate mom. But Just to transition a little bit, because we've talked about this. Some of us still have our mothers with us. I still have my mom, and I don't take it for granted. I think
Amen. Don't
Yeah.
do that.
sometimes, but it's
Yeah.
because of those who have lost and remind you. And I read
Mhm.
those posts when people say, if you still have your mother or
Yes.
your father, or if you still see this number come up on your phone, you're blessed. We've all seen that. And every time I see those things, they stop me and they humble me, because I
Mhm.
don't ever want to take my mother for granted, because
Mm-mm.
I know personally I cannot imagine the day when I cannot pick up the phone and hear her voice, or get a text message from her, or see her for holidays, and I can't imagine that. So even though I still have my mom and I appreciate her, I am a little bit more sympathetic to those who do not. But
Well,
yet, I have to tell you guys, it scares me to think about it, though. It's when I hear, those who like it's just like when it's
well,
triggering or maybe sad to hear people talk about their mothers who are still alive. It's equally as sad for me when people talk about their mothers who are not here. But that's just the reality that we live in. So,
well, on behalf of those, I know Marlena and I have both walked through that valley of the shadow, and
Mhm.
we envy those of you who still have your mothers. But
Right.
if God is kind and if God is caring and fair, you will say farewell to your mother, because other than that, it'll be the worst thing that your mother will have to say farewell to you.
mm,
But I tell you, it's been 6 years now since my
Mm.
mother has left. I still cannot bring myself to erase on my phone that her, where it says mom and her phone number.
mm,
I still can't. I can't erase it. I just can't. I just won't do it, because the soul clings to that door that opened to bring you into the world, and
mm,
you
mm.
know.
That's poetic.
And it's so, yeah, very poetic. And I, I just, Tally is saying 6 years and he's still hurting. And I just, it's only been 9 months for me since my mom
Wow.
has
Mhm,
passed. And it feels like yesterday. I
Mm.
still can't really talk about her. She wrote a poem some time ago, A Mother Is, and we
Wow.
read it. We would read it at our church all the time for Mother's Day. And I think it was published. And so we did a tribute to her at her service. And so I was looking for the poem. I could not find it, but I did find a fan. I don't know if you guys can see from the light, but that's my
beautiful.
sweet mother.
Oh,
She's a
And
beautiful woman.
She
yes,
really
she was. She my daddy would always say she looked better than us daughters.
no, I guess that's it.
Your dad was just teasing. He said, Mom is prettier than you. We'd just be joking
Yeah.
around. But how true he was, how true he was. But I did many, many funerals of people that I love dearly, church family members. Even my dad passed in 2020, and I really, really missed him. I mourn, but there is nothing like the pain that I
Yeah.
feel with my mother. I
mm.
still hurt to this day. And I remember what I would tell people in funerals, talk about them, it's therapeutic. I cannot talk about my
Mm,
mom a lot. And
Yeah.
so, even yes, as I just look at the memories. Nope, the
mm,
memories hurt me so deeply because, as Tally said, you don't want to let that go. And I remember because I mean, even if you have warning, that's tough. But when there's no warning and it's just like
mm,
that, that's why, Tosh,
Oh
I said,
man. Yeah.
yes, enjoy your mom. Because if I had known just 1 second that was my last time seeing her the night before, man, I mean, I still we still left in a good way, but I don't know. I think I still would have done things even differently, but
Yeah.
um, I just kept saying, God, I can't wait. And I told my mom, I'll see you when Jesus comes. That's all I
mm,
could say. And I was screaming. And the one who's always in control, that's me. People say, oh, Marlene, I could not believe, because you're always so together. But
mhm.
that was my mom,
Right.
and so I feel the pain when I had church members that would say, I don't like Mother's Day, and now I'm a part of that club. And so it's not that I don't like it, but it's hard to
Yeah,
It's hard to go through
well,
it.
this is your first Mother's Day, am I correct,
My
Marlene?
very
Yeah,
first.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. And in time, the tears do turn to smiles. And in time, I mean, you'll remember, this year with a tear, next year, with a sad reminiscing, and then the year after that, you'll remember some things that brought you joy.
Mm.
And it finds its place, but it takes a minute.
Yeah, yeah, I hear that.
It takes a minute.
And if I might also add, because I have to add this component, God gave me and my sister two little boys in 2012 when their mother died, and they were 9 and 10.
Mhm.
And it was a very good friend of ours, and so we all mourned very, very strongly. But when my mom died, I said, "Is that what my boys felt?"
Mm.
Because
Mercy.
because the psychologist, I put them in counseling very quickly, and the psychologist said they will act out, but they will not know why, and it's because they're grieving.
Wow.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And man, I mean, we went through hell and high water because they were so broken. And so
Mhm.
now I want to make sure, and even before then, I just want to make sure that I was a good replacement. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
Hmm.
Mhm.
For them losing their mom, because in everything that they do, it's reflected. My mom is not here to see it, and even though we love our substitute moms, but it's not my real mom,
Yeah.
and
Right.
so that's the weight that I feel now. I just want to make sure that as God gave them to us, that we will be the replacement to help them see their mom, when Jesus comes.
Right. Right. That's true. Now,
Powerful.
I have to say, the first time I ever heard, first and only time really I've ever heard my father cry was when his mother passed, and he
Mm.
didn't do it in front of us. I remember we were getting ready for the funeral, and he had gone into the restroom, and we just heard a wailing sound. And
Yeah.
I remember my sisters and we just looked at each other, what, because we were unfamiliar with that. Our dad didn't cry. And at that moment, we just all just started sobbing it because we had never seen our father experience such pain. We knew it had to come from a place of pain because for him to do that. And even now, and that's been several years ago. I mean, I was in high school when that happened. Just recently, he sent me, because I had been asking for pictures of her because we were close. He sent me a picture of her from her card that she would use to go to the doctor. They had a car. And I told him, and I just started crying. Like immediately when I saw it, I started crying. And I wrote to him, I said, "Dad, you made me cry." And he said, "Yes, I cried too." And I said to myself, it's something about a mother's love where decades later, you can still feel that pain as fresh as the day
Hmm.
they pass. It's like,
Hmm. Yeah.
and that's special. I mean, it's hard, but it's, to me, that's so special, that connection between child and mother. Um, that
Well,
and I've heard people say who have lost their like you were saying, Tally, over time it progressively gets better. But the pain is still seems to be just as palpable.
Yeah.
Would you say that though, Tally? Do you think that you still feel it, the
it
void
is.
just as much, but you just manage it a little bit better?
I mean, the thing about pain is assigning it its proper place. For example, if you wake up with a pain in your shoulder and you don't know where it comes from, it can terrify you. If you wake up with a pain knowing that you worked out really hard and you know where it comes from, you
Mhm.
assign it its proper place.
Right.
And in assigning it can actually become comforting. You hear people in sports say, "Oh, that hurts so good." And
Right.
so knowing that I was loved by my mother and unlike Marlena, I had the privilege of walking with my mother towards death as
Mm.
far as I could humanly walk with her, because she had an aneurysm on her aorta,
Mm.
Marlena, and
Mm.
she had surgery, but we knew that the surgery didn't repair it completely, and
Mm.
that at some point, she was just not going to be able. She was 95, and so she wasn't
Oh,
cheated, and
right, right,
Mhm.
right.
and we
Mm.
would talk about it, and she said, "Well, all my friends are gone," and she and I would talk about it. Now, my brother, on the other hand, who was a more controlling Type A personality, I never will forget. We were in the hospital room, and the doctors were there, and my brother took the doctors aside to the door of the hospital room, so my mother couldn't hear them. He thought, and told them I don't want anybody telling my mother she's dying. I don't want anybody telling my mother that it's fatal and all of that. And then after my brother walked out the hospital room with the doctors, my mother turned to me and said, I don't know what's wrong with you, brother. I'm dying. I know I'm dying.
Wow.
You're going to do my funeral, right? Right. And, and I said, sure, Mom, I got you, and we would talk about it. And so, after she died, I did her funeral, and, then, I had to find the place for the pain. And, it's funny when your mother dies and you're a little boy, it is the terror of being left alone. And that is the grief. It is what I have lost and what's been torn from me. When your mother dies and you're grown, it's not that you've lost the person who protected you. You have now lost the person that you feel sworn to protect. So it's like you losing a mother and a child and a friend all at once.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so it's
That's
a very
right. Mother and
different
a friend,
grieving,
yes.
and so
It cuts deep. Yeah.
it is the most significant grief, that I've had in life. But it comes from the beauty of knowing you've been loved well.
Yes.
And that you have loved. I mean, walking with my mother, I remember one of the things that is the most rewarding thing I've ever heard was I overheard my mother talking to a friend of hers saying, I always wanted to have daughters because, when you get older, you want somebody to take care of you. She said, and I heard her say, but I never would have dreamed that my 2 boys would care for me like this. Because it's just me and my brother. And so
nice.
everything I've ever done pales into
Amen.
relative insignificance for the fact that I cared for my mother.
Yeah.
That's
Thank you, Nick and Marlena, for that heartfelt tribute and those comments. So I heard someone say that when Elizabeth, when they she's
Dad.
doing that with her mouth. It's not what you think it is.
We didn't think that.
I thought it was you.
Right.
Hey, blame it on Daddy. But they say that when someone is at the end of their life, that they ask and they cry out for their mother. We saw that with George Floyd. We see that happen in hospices when they're in their last moments. The person they ask for, the person they cry out for, is their mother. Why do you think that is?
Wow.
Yeah, I mean,
that's a safe place, man.
It's comfort. It's comfort.
Yeah.
I had that with one of my favorite uncles. I can call his name Uncle Reuben Leslie from DuPont. He was one of my favorite uncles, and about months before he died, he mentioned can't wait. He couldn't wait to see his mother. And you talk about someone who was passed so long ago, he couldn't wait to see her. I think it's a comfort thing, GP. Of thinking that you're not alone in this world and the next one to come. I think that's what it is. I think I looked at my dad who just moved to this area, and when he moved to this area, he moved into his it's a fairly big house he's in. He cried, he had tears, and I asked him, what was that for? And he's like, I wish my mother was here to see this, and even did not move there till I was able to replicate the bed that she had. That he wanted in the house. I think it's just comfort, just making it feel as though the person is still around in some way or another. Yeah, I'm quiet, Marlene and Nick, because I've been pensive about this for years. Thinking about as they reaching this age. So my mom could basically make me do anything right now because they'll ask you to go to the end of the world and come back, and you would do it.
Yeah. Right.
Just because it's mom. So as I listen to you, I don't. There's a discomfort.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As you're even talking about it, because I can't imagine what it's like to lower a casket or whatever other way you do it. But what I have done, and this is very recent, is that I spend more time reading the text that I didn't like reading when she sent them. You know what I mean? She, my mom's Jamaican, so WhatsApp is like there is
that's the holy grail, man.
Right.
Smoke signals, right? Yeah.
Right. So she will YouTube every little thing, and now I've taken the time to actually watch what she sent so that when she calls, we can talk about what she sent.
Mhm.
You know, one of those type of things, because I've learned from y'all.
Mm-hmm.
Just like what Latasha had said in the very beginning, I've learned from y'all. I don't want to be at that point where I said, I wish I could have.
Right,
I
right.
wish I could, you know, I'm not at the point that I don't even want her money. And I'm real serious about this. I want her to be around as long as possible. You know, I kind of got on my nerve yesterday, but you know, but
you'll be all right. But listen, I do want to say I read this article that between the mom and the child through the umbilical cord, that they're umbilical cord. Y'all know what I'm saying, but that there's a transmission of the genetics that flow between the mom and the baby, so that the DNA is like mixed with the mother and the child. And so there is almost like God created such a strong linkage. And you know how with Christ Jesus, because he came to the earth, right, and died on the cross, we will be ever connected with him because of, you know, the sacrifice of him coming, right, and taking on this humanity. Is like we will forever be connected to our mothers. So it's almost like it's that higher relationship, you know, so that when one passes, there is, you know, you feel that deep loss. And I just want to say this, and let me help you understand. So my two boys, right? But no, this is real. My two boys.
I just love watching you build a bridge to a sermon at the drop of a hat. I just love it.
My two boys, they you know, they accept the loss differently. Like, their responses are differently, right? Are different. And so one, he reacts real emotional. The other is like, you know, more verbal, but one is very emotional. And so yeah, I'm just gonna put it out there because you know he doesn't look at me anyway, but somebody will. But the issue is quite complicated. There are three mothers. There's a birth mother, first adopted, and then we're the second adopted, right? So the birth mother is still alive, and so since you know he's trying to, I don't know, she was trying to come back and kind of be a part of their lives, right? And so he, you know, she hasn't been there, you know, other than every little now and then, if you say hello to me, you know, I'm kind of good with that. So I'm not trying to talk about her. I'm just trying to point out a issue, is that my son got tattoos on him, right? And so he got the initials of his mother, the first mom that passed, the first adopted mom who adopted him at three months. So that's the mother that he knows. But he also put the initials of the actual birth mother. So we were riding in the car, and I said, "Oh, what happened to the tattoo you got?" He says, "Here it is right here." Now, you know, I don't believe in tattoos and things like that, but I had a certain kind of feeling because I said, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Now the first adopted mom's up there and the birth mother, but me and my sister's initials weren't nowhere on that arm.
Right.
And we done gone through hell and high water, you know, since
like I earned my tattoo.
and I was like, listen, I don't even believe in tattoos. I said, you better put an MD on that arm somewhere, right?
You just walk up to him, Marlene, and just be like,
but I didn't say anything. I didn't say it. But you know, I turned my head because I was like, what the devil is this? But it came back to that emotional connection. The child still wants to be connected to the actual birth mother. And it's written, you know, statistically proven. That's why people, even though they might hate their mothers, at certain times there's still that draw back to the natural mother.
Well, here's the thing, Marlena, that it's in this case, you know, what you see on his arm is him memorializing what he's lost. He hasn't lost you.
No, the other mother's alive.
No, but she's alive, but he lost her.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
She, you know,
help me psychologically. Help me.
Yeah, I mean, she was never his mother. She gave him birth. You know, but the one who adopted him was his mother. You are now his mother. He comes home to you. Mother's where home is. Yeah, I remember I was 60 years old, and it dawned upon me that when my mother dies, I don't have home anymore. Now, you're
Yes.
talking about terror,
Yeah.
you know.
Absolutely.
And so he
That's the
hasn't
feeling.
lost
Yes.
you. The tattoos
That's
are
right.
memorializing things that he
It's in the
lost.
past. Yep.
Yeah, they're
Okay.
things in the past. And so
Okay. Help me.
Yep.
Help me. All
so yeah,
right.
so you be
I can
glad that your name
appreciate
ain't
that.
on his arm, because if
Right.
your name was on his
That's
arm,
right.
it'd be on a
That's
tombstone
right. And his
No, that's
girlfriend's name, it might be on there, and she gonna
at
be able
some
to
point. Yeah,
pass.
because she's lost, you
Yeah,
know.
she
But
lost. Make sure
I like that. That was
his though,
that
That was
Marlena,
very good.
it's on.
yeah.
It's well, Nick. I sent it to Nick in the text.
But no, but honestly though, Marlene, you bring up a good point, because there are a lot of people who don't have good relationships with their mother. I kind of referenced that earlier. And so Mother's Day is not triggering for them because they lost their mother in terms of by death, but they just don't have that relationship. So when they hear people celebrating or giving the tributes like we've heard from you today, they don't have that. They don't understand what a connection like that feels like. And you know, that's whole nother you know, I can't even break that down. Maybe you can, Pat.
No, there's a complex thing
Yeah,
that goes on
yeah,
with people who had mothers who caused them pain,
right,
or who failed to be mothers,
right,
because that person may have been hurtful to them,
right.
may have caused them injury, and at the same time, that person killed the person that they should have had. In other words,
Mhm.
it's like a husband who was a bad husband. Not only was he a bad husband, but he has prevented the place of the one you should have had. And
Mm,
so the
yeah.
mother who did not perform as she should have stands in the place of the one that should have been there. And this is why people cling to abusive parents, because they're saying, you know, it's like a debt collection agency. There's something in the heart that says, but you owe me this.
Mm,
And you keep going back to the person who's hurting you, saying, but you owe me this. And the mother who can't, and sometimes mothers haven't learned how to love. They were deprived and denied of
mhm,
certain things. But
Mm-hmm.
they owe you
mm,
nurture and caring, and they don't have it. And nothing is more embittering than when you go to the place where you should get what you deserve and it ain't there.
mm,
This is what Black folks went through in the United States of America when they went to a government that said all men are created equal and are endowed with inalienable rights, and they have the right to the pursuit of life, liberty, and all of that, and happiness. And you go to them and say, "Oh, we ain't got none for you," and
mm,
you keep going back and you keep getting hurt. And that's what
Mm.
happens to people with mothers who are not caring, but
yeah.
they still have the natural longing for what mothers should give.
So what do they do? I mean, you know, because sometimes people say, "Oh, sometimes you gotta let things go."
You
But
do. You do,
yeah,
but you find ways to replace it. A lot of guys who are bitter with their mothers try to find it in replacements in their wives and girlfriends.
mhm,
That leads to complicated situations. That song what the sister sang, you know, you're not my daddy, you're my man, and I'm not your mama, I'm your girl. I
mm,
mean, we have these complex relationships. You got to read the book called Getting the Love You Want, that talks about how our caregivers, mothers and fathers, become replicated in the people that we choose
That's
to
right.
complete the unfinished business of our growing up.
Mercy,
Negative,
mercy.
mhm.
negative
Yeah.
or positive.
Negative
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
positive, yeah.
I mean,
Hmm.
either way it goes. You know,
Oh, I
most of the
didn't think
times you
about
find
that.
out
Mhm.
you're marrying someone like your mother,
Yeah.
Yeah.
whether whichever however the mother might have treated. You know what? We come from a long background of abusive situations, and I don't want to say this for Mother's Day. On this Mother's Day, you appreciate the best that comes out of
Yes.
There you go. Yeah.
of her.
Yeah.
Because the truth is that there's a homing device, and you kind of talked about it earlier, Marlene. There's something that's deep inside of you, like a
Fire.
homing device or something that draws you to your mother, even if you hate her,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's
even if
right.
Mm-hmm.
there's
Yeah.
something that
Yeah.
went wrong, or your mother wasn't a nurturer, whatever it might be. There's a longing for that. You ever hear adopted children, or they're grown now, who find their parents?
Right. Right.
There's a question of, yo, what's this all about? How come, you gave me away, or how come this happened? But the other side of it, they could muster up to say, after meeting them in that one day, I love you. They
Wow.
could
Mm-hmm.
muster up to say
Mm-hmm.
it
Mm-hmm.
because they truly do. There's
Mm-hmm.
something there that says, I'm
It's
connected. My blood is your blood.
Mm.
It's the same. So there's Mother's Day. is when my children were small, Mother's Day was what I did for my wife. You understand what I'm saying? For Mother's Day. As they grew up, I started to pull back. I wanted them to know how to appreciate their mother instead of me being that person in place of it. Because the truth is, they need to have that nurture from her that they can't get from, I'm not saying a man, but from anywhere else, period. And it's there. Even the worst of them, there's something there that connects them.
Yeah, I think we also should acknowledge the people who didn't biologically birth a child, but they are
Yes.
mothers as well. So there are grandmothers, mothers, and mentors who are
That's
mothers
right.
to other
Mentors. That's
people.
right.
And
Yeah.
so you too are a mother, and we want to appreciate you as well for all you do to pour into the life of someone else.
Amen.
Yeah.
And youth and church mothers and youth leaders that don't have children, but you give your life for those children. We celebrate all of you.
It's funny. I was at a get together this weekend, and this young lady had 5 children. I don't think she reached the age of 30 something yet, but mother and father. And when she came around, she had all her children together. The last one was like 2 months old. It was almost like the people around her kind of, y'all don't got TV, you know what I mean? Or something like that, or whatever.
Showing all them kids. Yeah.
Yeah, you all them kids. I brought her over to the side and I said, "You are blessed."
Amen.
Right.
And she was kind of like, and I said, "No, I want you to understand the amount of people who cannot." Let's just talk about that. Let's just look at that. Who cannot. But God has blessed you to be able to have children who it is your responsibility that they will call you blessed. You know what I mean? And she looked different. She kind of looked like, yeah, and grabbed the time, was like,
she owned that thing. I'm a
get y'all, but I just want to say, for everyone who's able to, whether you have a husband or not, a mother is a mother, no matter how you look at it. Yeah, it's a privilege and a blessing to have a mother and still have one.
It is so unlike me to inject anything that might be controversial, but at
No,
the
it's
risk
not
of doing
unlike
so,
you.
On Mother's Day, really? On Mother's Day.
well, this is a
Bring 'em on.
theological
Ready.
this is a theological issue.
Mhm.
If mothers are so important, and there's a primacy of love relationship between mothers and their children, why don't we call God our mother? Now, we don't have a problem correcting the language of Scripture when we read in John where it says, behold, what manner of love the Father has shown upon us, that we are called the sons of God. We realize that what the Bible should have written is that we are called the children of God. We have no problem making that gender correction there. And we recognize that the Bible is biased towards males. I mean, because when it says that thou shalt not covet, and then it says thy neighbor's wife, it's talking only to men. We recognize the Bible speaks to men. We don't have a problem correcting gender in that issue. But why is it that we are afraid to call God our mother when God refers to the person of God in a feminine sense many times, like an eagle stirs her nest, as a mother who will not remembers her sucking child, so I'll never forget you.
Yep.
Is it okay for us to refer to God as our mother?
Yeah, let me answer this, Nick, because
Go ahead.
I consider myself a reformed fundamentalist. It's not safe for the church right now to come out with that.
Just look at GP as the example. The father taking care of the child. You stick with that.
But you know something? I'm going to tell you this. That doesn't impress me. That's what he's supposed to do. It's not. We have to come out of that thing that the father goes to work and this, that, and the other. And so, what is the mother? Nah, I'm not.
GP said, "Hey, look, don't be taking my shine.
No,
this is impressive
over here.
No, I'm not.
I'm elbow deep in diapers. You better be impressed."
No, and and I'm not saying it for that. I'm saying it for what Nick has said. Yeah, we give God gets more credit than the English language can allow.
And so if I pray and I say, if I'm praying, Pat, and I says, Holy Mother, we thank you for all that you have done and
I
all
do,
that you
Holy
are.
Mother, full of grace.
He did, but he
Would
didn't tell
would
us to
that be
pray
okay?
like that.
No,
No,
I
he didn't
don't.
tell
You
us
know
to
what
pray
though,
like
Nick? I
that.
wasn't taught. We were not taught
He says,
to
"Our
to
Father."
it. So it feels funny to be able to do it. But recently, I have looked at I look at God more like my mother than my father.
Yeah,
And
God has both attributes, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Mhm.
the nurturing, the loving. I
That's right.
will, hold
Provide.
you in my arms. I will make sure that you're comforted like a mother comforts her
That's
child.
right.
God, we are made in the image of God, both male and female. And so when you talk about are you alluding to the gender of God or his characteristics?
Well, I'm alluding to the language that we use to speak about
yeah,
God, because
yeah,
language and neurolinguistics are important. What we say factors into how we perceive and we think. And most of us, when we pray to God, we think of somebody who looks a little bit more like Charles than somebody who looks like Marlena. We expect
that's
God to
right.
have a beard and
And a deep
and
voice
a
like
deep voice.
GP's.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
However,
So
in womanist theology, God is she. We pray
yeah,
to her,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
Mhm.
And
And
so
is that okay, GP, to do that?
listen, if someone wants to, call God a she, I'm not going to stop them. But, we've
So you're
been,
saying that it's okay to do that, and I'm just
GP,
saying.
GP.
GP, don't do
Do
it.
you really
Just,
want to go
I'm
there?
not
You,
going to answer. I'm not
yeah,
going to
that's
answer.
right. Don't do it,
you
GP.
really want
Go give Libby a snack.
Libby just
No, no.
reached out and grabbed him by the collar and said,
Well,
"Look,
let's
listen,
to
pray.
say
Our Father and Mother in heaven, we thank you
Hey, but
for
y'all
this
miss
time together on this podcast
y'all
today.
miss Libby. Libby was like this. She's like,
don't you let Uncle Tally make you lose this job."
but you know what? And GP, I
I mean,
wasn't really
God
wasn't even
refers to the self of God in feminine ways as often as in masculine,
that's right.
and the Hebrew is feminine,
Right.
Elohim. I mean, so Marlena, it's time to start. Next time you go to Willow Grove, I expect you on Mother's Day.
I will say, when the disciples asked, "How should we pray?" He said, "Our Father." That is safest.
Yeah, we're stuck culturally when it comes to that, and it's going to
The
be on.
language of Scripture is sexist. We
Of
know that.
course,
Yeah.
of course,
And
of
we are
course.
willing to correct it in every case except this one.
Well,
You are. I'm not. No. And you know what? I'm serious though. And when I say that, I'm saying when I think about my mother, the attributes of my mother are more lined up with how God treats me
Mm.
than this. But it's personal. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's personal. So, so I do have a difficulty as we talk about Mother's Day. How do we deal with people who don't have mothers and now try to attribute God to something that they have never experienced? You know what I mean? But I gotta take the time out to tell GP you're a great father. I have to tell you that. I needed to tell you that because
And I'm impressed, GP.
Yeah.
listen,
Okay.
that's another show. That's another
Yeah,
show.
that's June. Father's Day. No,
Yeah, yeah.
We gotta wait.
don't steal their shine, Pat. Let them have their moment. They're gonna drag you in the chat right now.
It's
Drag.
coming. I know it's
Drag him.
coming. I know it's coming. But when our June time comes around, we'll chat about that. But I do feel I want to take it back to where we were before Tally came and theologized and buried this thing. I don't know. My grandmother died in 1974. My other grandmother died July 4th. That before, and I have not grieved her yet. And I have not learned how to, and I don't want to learn how to. I still think she's in Brooklyn, New York, and she's still around. And it comforts me to think that she's still around. So I don't know, Marlena, what you're going through, and I don't know, Nick, what you have gone through over the past 6 years. I know that even just today, I am going to spend time with my mother, and because I think it's necessary for me to be able to do that. And I ask God that when that should happen, besides the money that she gonna leave, that I that that there is a ease. I don't know how it's gonna be. And let me tell you this as a pastor, I regret half the things I told people that lost their mothers at a
Yeah.
funeral home, in the church. I regret what I've said
We've
today.
said we say stupid things to people when they lose.
Yes, we do.
I never will forget a guy lost his father. Kid lost his father because father got hit by a truck or a bus, and some deacon that who had the IQ of room temperature went with me and started spouting some idiotic poetry to this child and ended when you loved him, but God loved him best. And so the kid said, "So God hit him with a truck." I mean,
Mercy.
because we say stupid things.
We do.
And trying to help people. And so if people are grieving the loss of their mother, embrace the fact that what you have lost is surpassed by what you have had. And own the things that we're given memory not as an infallible recall of our history. We're given memory so that we can hold on to the things that matter most to us. And I will never forget my mom. I mean, my mom was imperfect because my mother was an orphan. Her mother died when she was less than 2. Wow. She never knew who her father was. Her grandfather literally gave her away to a woman who said, whose little girl is that? And the grandfather said, she's my grandchild. You want her? And the woman said, yeah, I need somebody to help me with the wash. And my mother's grandfather gave her away to some woman who treated her cruelly.
Wow.
My mother never knew the love of a parent. My mother never said she loved me as a child. She cared for me, but she never. But as an adult, after she grew and matured, my mother and I literally we talked every day.
That's right.
And we would not end the phone call without saying, you know,
Nick, don't do this.
Yeah.
Nick, come on, Nick.
It hits you just like that.
I'm the luckiest man on earth.
I was doing well, man.
I am the luckiest man on earth. You know, my mom had nothing and gave me everything.
Wow.
She had nothing and gave me everything.
Yeah. And I want to piggyback what Nick said because I was thinking to say this and it just brings it to the head right now because many people have had issues with their mothers. And I want to say, you don't know what your moms went through to develop, that coping strategy that you may see now. You may think that it's just a behavior, she didn't care, but you don't know what got her to that place. Right. And so if we could just have some forgiveness in our hearts, and I tell people, who I've spoken with, and they said, well, me and my mom haven't spoken. I said, let me tell you something. You better enjoy your mother. If something is going on, fix it. Just you do your part to fix it, whether it's just, forgive and let it go, because when she's gone, there is something about guilt when it comes to death. I mean, all kinds of feelings, come across, maybe I should have reached out more. Maybe I should have called. Maybe I should have done. I said, don't miss this opportunity to get to know your mother more. And so I want to say that too. Yes. To all of you who are out there, enjoy your mother, because there's nothing like, there's no pain like when they're no longer there. You can say, I don't care. I mean, she's around there. You feel, I don't care. You're going to regret what you're feeling.
Mercy. And if I could chime in, Pat, I'm not privileged like you to be near my mother. And so I try to call her as often as I can and talk to her. And when she turned 1, I took her down to Florida to meet my family for the first time. Yeah. And I told Tasha this a few days ago that I was coaching my mother because I was going to leave Elizabeth with my mom for 5 days and take off with my wife. And so I bought all the food, put down a list together, and I found myself trying to coach my mom, like, here's how you take care of Libby.
Like this was her first day at the rodeo.
Like, stop it. If I didn't take good care of you, you wouldn't be here.
That's right.
So the reality is that we wouldn't be here if someone didn't take care of us.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, take time to thank your mothers, your mentors, those who have poured into you, because they were. You are a turtle on a fence. You didn't get there by yourself. Somebody put you there.
All right.
Amen.
GP, I like that. But let me also say, for those who live near their parents, there are times when I say they're there. So I don't have to go.
Yeah.
And I don't have to. So I like what you said, GP. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Don't take for granted that they're just up the
Yes.
block, because for how long they've been living in New York, now they live a mile away from me.
Have mercy.
But now we're slaves. But so we'll talk about that later on.
That's
you
what
know-
children are created for, the slaves.
That's
I know, they used to say
You
that. Wait,
George.
I had you to go get me the TV remote.
Like, hey Pat, I need you. Go get my slippers.
Listen, my brother, you think I'm joking? I'm about to leave to go get batteries.
You know,
No,
Batteries.
the time will come, Pat, when you would wish that you had that mission.
Mhm.
And so we learn to cherish it. I mean, you own it all. I mean, own the times when, you know, the fact that she's getting on my nerves right now, you know. And I remember one time my mom called and said, I can't get up off the floor, and I had to get dressed and go. And this was she was about 93, 94 at that time. That's when we knew something was wrong. But you know, I owned it all. I remember one of the most exquisite memories I have was at the end, you know, and death was near. We knew it. And she was, you know, morphined up. She was in hospice care. And I did, you know, I would go over and I would just sleep in the room with her. And she, you know, she'd wake up and clear up just enough to feel the terror of knowing she's in a strange place. My mother had never been sick a day in her life. And so at 90, you know, and so she'd wake up and I heard her, you know, waking up startled. She was, you know, she was scared. And I would say, Mom, it's okay, I'm here. And she would go right back to sleep. And you realize that I had returned to my mother something she had given to me, you know. It doesn't get any better than that. It doesn't get any better. It is exquisite pain, but there's a beauty to you know, that song, There's Beauty in My Brokenness.
Yes,
Let me
yes,
tell you.
yes.
Own it
Why
all.
don't you sing that for us real quick?
No, not right now.
Ladies and gentlemen,
a
direct from
concert
my
already.
tour of Europe, I
But I
dropped
just
this
want
one
to add to
yesterday.
that. I know Nick and
Wow.
I taking over, but I do want to add to that. Someone said to me, because my mom came to live with me after my parents' divorce, after 30 years. I think she came to live with me. And I didn't want her, you know, to be struggling by herself. God bless me. I was living very well. And so I said, Mom, come to stay with me. She's never wanted to be a burden. I said, how can you be a burden? You're my mom. And my mom, I've seen her sacrifice so much for us, because my dad worked 7 days a week, you know, trying to, you know, take the monies, and we didn't get any, you know, governmental assistance or anything like that. And I saw my mom sacrifice, and she had such a giving heart, and she raised all of us. We were all very close. And if my mom needed anything, any of us would be there. It's not the kind of thing where I have to feel like I'm the bird, you know, I'm the one that everyone has to, you know, I have to do everything for my mom. But my siblings were just as committed. But one of my friends said this to me, and he says, don't ever change it. So get what I'm saying? Don't ever change it. He says, but could it be the reason, you know, you haven't married because, you know, you have the obligation of taking care of your mother, right? I was like, I don't know. You know, I don't know about that. You know, some people marry and, you know, in-laws live with them or whatever. And he says, don't ever change it. But, you know, could that be an issue? And I said, even if it was, if I had to choose between the two, and I do desire to marry, well, that was at that time. I said, I know too much now. At that time, I said I would choose my mother because she had been so good to me. I would refuse to put her in any nursing home. I mean, she could have lived independently anyway, but you know, the older you get, she started to have some, you know, comorbidity diagnosis, you know, diabetes, you know, kind of things that it wasn't best for her to live alone. But I did not want to put her off on anybody. She was going to come here with me and in PA, you know. That's the honor that she deserves. So if I had to sacrifice, I would sacrifice to keep my mom, because that's how good, that's what she did for me all of her days.
Yeah.
And that's what honor is about, I think, you know, because sometimes we see honor your mother and your father, but we don't really know what that looks like until situations like that, where you made that choice that it's all about mom. Whatever mom needs, I'll sacrifice it just to show her how much I appreciate her. And there are a couple of other groups I want to mention before we close today's show. And that's those women who desire to be mothers.
Oh, yes, yes.
And unfortunately, you know, whether medically or otherwise, are not able because, you know, I talked about Mother's Day not always being the best for some people, and there are a group of people who grieve not their own mothers, but the fact that they're not able to be mothers. And, we talk about, having these attributes of being loving and nurturing. They feel they possess all that. They feel like they would be perfect mothers, but biologically, with some people, may not be into adoption. Biologically, they're not able to do that. They're not able to birth. And so, there's a space there where we have to be sensitive to those moms, those who desire to be moms, and then those moms that have birthed children but have lost them. You alluded to this, lost them to death. So, there's just so many layers to this whole Mother's Day thing. And some people hear it and they think good thoughts. Some people hear it and it brings up bad thoughts. But I just wanted to make sure we're touching on all the spectrum of what Mother's Day means to different people. And guys, how can we help people kind of, and this kind of goes with church too, because sometimes when we have our Mother's Day programs, we only focus on one group
people who actually given birth.
Right. How do we find a way to, and maybe it's not possible, but how do we find a way to kind of ease some of the discomfort that people feel in these various groups that we've mentioned? How do we be more sensitive? How can we be more sensitive? I don't know.
We are not defined solely by biology.
There we go.
Yes,
Nick.
There you go. There you go.
Grabbed it. You grabbed it.
It's the other day I watched a group of exquisite physical specimens run up and down on the court playing a championship basketball game. I can't do that, but I have found a way to enjoy that which I cannot biologically own.
That's good.
So
That's good.
If you can't be a biological mother,
support,
you can still enjoy the attributes of motherhood.
That's right.
Nurture, caring, support, loving, embracing, comforting, and
you don't have to change the diapers.
Yeah. Jesus said it best about a woman who was doing something for him that nobody else understood. She was wiping his feet with her tears and her hair and pouring an ointment on him, and everybody was complaining. And Jesus said, she has done what she could.
That's right.
The question you have to ask is, maybe you can't biologically give birth, but what can you do? Do what you can, and you will find a joy in that will be equal to that which others might have in their sphere. But just do what you can, own what you can,
and be a blessing to someone who is longing for a mother. So many children are out there, and I know you want your own, but some, like, guys, I couldn't have children, and I had, for the Black culture, we talked about those fibroid tumors, and how hereditary they are, where it was very strong in my family. And several of us, had to have hysterectomies because of that. And you're waiting on God, you're trying to do everything that's right, waiting on God for that spouse. No spouse comes. And so now you're single and barren, and so what do you do? And so even though you have that emotional pain, and that might not be everybody's story, but hear my story, right? Do the best that you can. God just dropped our boys in our laps, and we went from being single one day to being a mother in 24 hours.
Wow.
And so without spouses, and broken little boys without spouses, but the joy that came with taking those children and knowing the responsibility that God gave for us to take something that was broken and to love it, and to rear them, so that they could then have a good life. And so if I could share with the rest of you who may feel broken and you don't know why God has let that happen, because we all go to God, why? God always has a plan. He always has a backup, and so if you could just reach out. I know I had these good friends, they very eloquent. I mean, one's an attorney, one's a judge. They're the couple. And so there was a little kid in their church, and the grandparent says, I can't raise my grandson. The mother has died. Will you guys raise him? They had been trying to have children, going to all kind of in vitro kind of treatments. Nothing happened. They took the little boy. They adopted that little boy. They were so happy. year or two later, God gave them their own child naturally.
Mhm.
But
Good God.
they were willing to love somebody else's
Right.
child. If it's all about loving someone. So if I
Mhm.
could speak to those who are longing, because this one thing about us female pastors, we get a lot of stories from
Mhm.
congregants that may not speak to the male
Right.
person, and we encountered that a lot. And so if you could just reach out to another child that's hurting and raise them, you will get that satisfaction that you have longed for.
Amen. Amen. Great.
Powerful.
You
Yes.
guys are dropping some pretty powerful. I mean,
That was a
this-
courageous statement, Marlena.
Mhm. Yeah.
I salute you. I
And I'm
salute
looking
you.
at all these experiences God's given me. He's given me a lot of troubles, that to help
But you wear
somebody
it
else.
well, my sister.
Yes,
You
you
wear
wear
it
it
well.
well,
You
and
wear it
then you
well.
use it to help others, and that's what
That's
I
it.
appreciate. So other people don't feel alone.
And Pat has told us that we can pray to Mother God now, and
Yes.
Mother, Father.
yeah.
But no, this has been great. Great discussion. I think we've kind of gone around the whole gamut of motherhood and what it looks like and what it doesn't look like. But in the end, this is Mother's Day, and we do want to once again acknowledge all of our mothers, mother figures, um, those who desire it, those who didn't have it. There is still something. I think what I've gotten from even what you all have said, God knows what He's doing, and in every circumstance, there's something that we can be grateful for, or learn to appreciate, or put our energy in an area where He can bless. So today, all of our mothers who are watching, we salute you. To all of those who are remembering their mothers today, we remember them with you, and we
Amen.
encourage you, just as I enjoyed listening to you all remember your mothers. If you feel up to it, maybe take the opportunity to share what you remember about your mother with someone else and lift them up as well. So this has been great. Yeah, I like that idea. Celebrating mothers. I don't know. I just feel so full right now. Like this, you guys have touched my heart.
I think we should have a word from our sponsor. Elizabeth, can you tell them how you feel? Thank you, mommy.
You just sang it.
Yes.
And we all thank Dr. Talley for appearing today with his therapeutic information, right? He blessed me, so I know he blessed you.
Yes.
Hey, look, trust me, you are number one in those boys' heart. Trust me, Marlena. Trust me.
Yes. So we salute you, mothers, and enjoy your Mother's Day. And
Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day, guys.
And fathers, remember, fathers, you'll take them out, you'll buy them their first glove, you'll play pitch with them, you will run them around the bases, show them how to score a touchdown, and they'll get on TV and they'll say, "Hi, Mom."
Hi, Mom. Yep.
Realize where you show up,
They'll say, "Mom, you're the real MVP."
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Man, that's crazy.
All right, guys. Have a good one. Thanks for spending this time. And once again, happy Mother's Day, everyone. We'll see you next week back here at 6:00.
God bless.
God bless you. Happy Mother's Day, everybody. Happy Mother's Day, Tasha. Happy Mother's Day, Marlena.
Thank you.
Happy Mother's Day to our family out there.
Yes. Happy Mother's Day. Bye-bye.